It's a return to form of just classic old school filmmaking that, Universal and Amblin are just incredibly skilled at. And the thing that, like, I think separates them from, honestly, like, just the other studios in terms of monster and also just old school filmmaking. The practicality of it, or the practical nature of it, like the from the sets to the locations. I mean, and also André Øvredal's vision. Like, we sat and we talked about it, and I just felt like he was incredibly collaborative, generous, and had a point of view about this thing and how to actually shoot it, because it is a bit of a monster, for lack of a better word, of a film to make. So, and there's a lot of pressure, but he didn't operate with that pressure on set. And so I just thought it was a good opportunity to come back, and then also to be able to play this particular character was just fascinating for me. I thought it felt like an old school, like that character, like a character thriller, like a character piece. I felt like the script was, and it went through changes as we went through it, but I felt like it was character driven, and one of those characters being Dracula. So Dracula wasn't just this crazy, this mindless animal. Dracula is very much he's still a monster in this version. But he's not the monster that we're used to. And I think that was the appeal, because we haven't seen it before, Oh, Clemens is he's a legend in my eyes. No, he's this Cambridge educated black doctor who for me was an opportunity to tell that story because these men existed during that time. And but also he represents something in this film that isn't often seen in the horror genre. And so to be able to be a black lead and be also the person who doubts, you watch his journey, he sort of doubts the supernatural because he's a man of science, and he's a man who doesn't believe in myths and all of that until he's confronted with this thing that he can't escape, literally can't escape. And I just thought it was important to tell that story and to watch his journey and his evolution in the same way you watch Dracula's journey and evolution throughout the thing. Dracula is learning about human nature. You can tell with the knocking, right, and how he's playing with these people, these sailors, and toying with them. And then you have, Clemens, who is also journeying from this doctor to this hunter, and he makes a decision and he goes for it. He has to. So yeah. Well, he wins them over. Not, he doesn't try to win them. Like, that's the thing. That's the thing I do like about that, is that he's not here to necessarily make friends. He's here to get to London, and he'll do what he needs to do on the ship, but he's not here to appease anybody on that boat. The reason he wins them over is because they see the man, and they see how he's able to adapt, and they see that they also have no choice but to listen to him because he's also the conduit to Anna, played by Aisling, who is incredible. In order for them to understand this monster, they have to understand her, but they don't know how to do. They're not equipped to do that because they don't believe in women back then it was taboo, and so. Clemens is a bit of a conduit to her, and then also a conduit to Dracula as well. They're all outsiders, those three. And there's a bit of they see that in each other, I think. And so, yeah, he does ultimately win them over. It's not an easy task, but if they want to survive, they have to learn how to depend on each other, because they also have to find a way to sail this huge cargo ship across the Aegean. And that is also no easy task. So they have to bond. They have to figure it out. And I'll say they gain a respect for each other. He's incredible. Liam Cunningham, come on, man. He's like legend and also a leader on set as well. And so in being a leader on set and his career and everything, we had a lot of fun just offset too, you know what I mean, and just explored Malta and Berlin and all that good stuff. But I think Clemens and the captain also see something in each other. I think the captain sees the leader in Clemens before Clemens sees it. And I think he's the only one who's able to see that, whereas Wojciech can't see that. He hasn't risen to that station yet. And I just think there's a respect there that the captain has, because he has a bit more of the world view. He understands Clemens' station in the world and what he's fighting against, because he's seen it, you know? And he has the wisdom and the age to reflect that, whereas some of the younger crew members, you know, are a product of their environment. Oh, it's tense. It's fraught with tension, but because again, Wojciech is he's right under the captain, and he's constantly being subverted by by Clemens, who is making, in my estimation, all the right decisions. But Wojciech, is banking on Clemens failing and not, Clemens, is given the opportunity to lead by the captain. And it skips over Wojciech, and he sees that power being taken away. But it's also great working with David, because offset, outside of that, like on screen, we're like this, but off screen, we're just, it's just had so much fun. Berlin is an incredible city. Malta is beautiful. I had the time of my life. Like, I literally was just, and it was in the middle of COVID, I will say that, but it was like one of those times where we were in a bubble, and we had to be very careful, and so you have to make the most of it. And we did all of our interiors in Berlin, and we did all of our exteriors, or most of them, in Malta. And again, the sets were incredible. I think the original Nosferatu film might have been Murnau's film was shot in the same studio that we were in Berlin, in Germany, which I thought was a cool piece of like history. Kind of blessed the set as we were starting. But yeah, it was cool. It's hard to shoot a film like this that's such a tight, condensed narrative and like a horror genre with tension over the course of as many months as we did in what seems to be one location. But again, we took our crew from Berlin to Malta. We just had a great time. It was good. Awesome. Yeah, as they say, this ain't your mama's Dracula. This is a new version of it, but it's also a throwback again to old school filmmaking. Not necessarily that film, but it's the monster. It's the thing of he's intelligent but he's also really scary. And I think we've gotten used to a lot of vampire stories being very suave and sleek and sexy, and this version of Dracula is not that. He's scary and in your face, and it makes you uncomfortable in a really interesting way. Yeah, he's incredible. Javier Botet is insanely talented. I mean, he's a legend, right? Like he's done so many different roles in that in the monster universe, I guess, and he just brings another level of skill to it that I think is hard to emulate. Like, he just gets it. Javier's like, and he's also just funny, man. Like, the other good part of shooting in Malta is we got to like go, actually get on a boat and go out to sea and go have fun and stuff like that. And I just remember like seeing him offset is so different than being on set with him, because he's just such a fun guy to be around, cool, and we just had a great time. It was like camp almost, making this unique, thriller. Well, it was weird because when between action and cut, it's scary as hell, and then he called cut, and then he's trying to mumble something, but you can't understand it because his mask is blocking him, and he's trying to stuff food through his mask, and he has the eye holes cut out. But it's like, oh man, it was weird and scary. But again, between action and cut, he has this like physical nature of Dracula, that whole physical language. Even in the trailer, there's this moment where you see Dracula crawling above little Toby. And that was how I remember watching that scene that day and watching him do that and being like, oh, that's gonna make the trailer. Or like that is incredible. Like it's what nightmares are made of, you know? Andre's vision was one of the main reasons I got on board. We had a long Zoom call and met, and then I just wanted to be a part of whatever his vision was, because I had seen his other films. I remember with Troll Hunter and Autobiography of Jane Doe, and I just knew that he was the person to actually bring this to life. And I think he did it just incredibly well, managing the challenges of trying to make a film like this and the pressure of trying to make a film like this. But all we had to do was trust him, and all he had to do was trust us to do our jobs. And you have to trust the creative. He got the right creative people around to make these incredible sets, and like, the throwback to it all. And, his mentor is Guillermo del Toro. And like, so, he comes from that as well. And it was really cool. It was just really cool. Fun and also very challenging, because like, I like doing stunts, but if I have a stunt double, I'm gonna let him do his job. I'm gonna let him do his job. But a lot of it had to, again, be practical. Like Andre needed the camera right in your face once you land from getting thrown by Dracula or whatever that was. And it was cool because, especially the ending sequence, like there was a lot of just really digging to figure out what would actually happen. How do you actually make this work? Given the environment, given what's actually happening right now versus what might have been envisioned in the script or whatever. But everything really matched mostly his vision. It was just about executing it. But I tell you, those stunts and all of that stuff was a pleasure to shoot, but it was also crazy. The water and like just being in the water. I remember at one point, Andre, I don't swim, so like we put buoys under my costume, and I'm sitting there acting, trying to we had just jumped off the boat into the waves and everything. I'm sitting there acting, and like the buoys, you could just see the buoys like slip out from under my clothes, and like, oh man, that was just the funniest thing. The crew's just laughing. I'm sitting there acting, trying to, and they're like, we can't use any of that because all of your lifeguard stuff is just flying out of you. It was too funny. But yeah, it was a joy to shoot those sequences. With just reverence and respect for my cast, I just want to shout them out because this is one of the best ensemble international casts I've worked with. And they're all incredible. I mean, you're talking about Emmy winners, and Olivier winners, and all sorts of like just theater actors as well. Just great and good people. Like we actually hung out on set and off set, and just had a good time. And I thank them because it's not an easy movie to get through, because a lot of challenges and it's very dark. But offset, we were able to, keep it fun. And so I just look back with fondness on them because they make this movie. It's a character piece. And so without a cast like this, you would be, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did.